This is Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast, with your hosts, Brandon Spinner and Michael Burns.
And welcome into another episode of Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast. I am Brandon Spinner, the co-host of mine, Michael Burns, always alongside me, this time in Huntsville, Alabama, not in person, but it is what it is. We'll do another one in person, Mikey. How you doing?
Calm your mitts, Brandon. Calm your mitts, okay?
Calm my... Oh, yeah. He's calling out my shirt. He's saying it right away. Big shout out to Whiskey and Walk-Offs for this shirt. Calm your mitts. You can only see it on YouTube. How you doing, dude? It's been a while.
I'm doing well. I am on location, ?
You're on location because of all the house construction that you've been up to lately.
Yeah. Not by choice.
Not by choice. Well, you kind of chose to tear the columns out, didn't you? Or was that not a
this is that was Michael's choice, but this is the floor renovation that they're now installing the floor for the third time since August of 21.
Hashtag Home Depot win.
Sponsored by.
And this one brought to you by not Home Depot.
So right now I'm recording here in my master bedroom with no furniture in it and no trim, just some brand new floor. That's it.
Brand new floor. So Michael joining us from his master bedroom. I am joining us from the normal Spinner bar and cave. I am Brandon Spinner, as I mentioned, alongside Michael Burns. This is Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast. You can find us on YouTube. We'd love to see you watch there. You can always get a couple of cool videos over there almost every week. Also, head on over to Instagram, Barrels, the letter N, Barrels Pod. Again, that is at Barrels and Barrels Pod. And also on Facebook and Twitter. Twitter is Barrels and Barrels. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, as well as Amazon, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio Podcasts. We're on most of those platforms. We'd love to get your reviews, your ratings. Last I saw was 3 reviews and 11 5-star ratings, so we'd love to see more of those. There's 33 of you who listen to every episode, it says, so can you hit the 5-star button, whether that's on Spotify or Apple playlists? We do this for the 33 of you. And thank you for listening. Head on over to YouTube as well if you want to watch us there. You can subscribe and get some more cool content. I do want to give a couple of shout-outs here early, Mikey. Do you have anybody you want to shout out?
No, not yet. Not yet. Not at this moment. Not at
this moment.
No.
Last episode, the Bottle and Bond one we did, I gave a shout-out to Tiffany Gibson and her wife. Her wife is not named Kristen Swilly. I did not pause in between the two. So I'm going to give another shout out to Tiffany Gibson and her wife. And they've been very loyal listeners. And I think they just did a road trip where they listened to every episode. So a big shout out to them. Bourbon Whiskey Library just got a cool package from him with some samples, some cigars, a bunch of swag. So I want to give him a shout out. And also, Michael King, you know him as 1311 Miscellaneous. He is the husband of Lady in the Bourbon, which is Jesse. When I saw him, he gave me a pen. He does those cool pen videos on Instagram. I don't know if you've seen that. Oh. This is a pen where he takes and he literally, on a lathe, carves out the pen and puts it together. This was the first one he did with a Louisville Slugger bat. So it is a Louisville Slugger bat made into a pen. So big shout out to him. Awesome stuff there. And also Blue Note, they sent us some cool packaging. So we're going to have to get a tasting on the way of the new Blue Note Special Reserve Cask Finish series that they're coming out with here soon. Ooh. So expect a package here soon, Mikey. Last but not least, T-shirts. We've got T-shirts for sale. I'm holding it up on YouTube. That's the logo. This is $25 if you want one. We're about to put in a T-shirt order. So if you want to get those in as soon as possible.
So soft. Perfect for the spring and summer.
They're very soft. Awesome stuff from Charlie Mike Never Weekend, a company out of North Alabama in Huntsville. Okay. Here's the deal. The first 2 people to reach out to me and say they want a T-shirt, we're going to waive shipping on. We're going to give free shipping because of a secret admirer who's already paid your shipping. So the first 2 people to reach out, that is $25. If you want a T-shirt, head on over. You can email us barrels, the letter N, barrels @gmail.com.
Or just hit up on Instagram.
Yeah, you can hit us on Instagram, or wherever you find us, if you follow us. I'm Brandon on Facebook and Twitter. You can find me on Instagram, whiskey_weather, above Michael's name on YouTube. What is it?
BNB_Burns.
So that's where you can find us there. So we've done a couple interviews. We've done a couple of ratings and tastings. We haven't done a bourbon and baseball podcast all glommed together in a while.
It's been the off season. It's been the off season.
Is this our first one of 2023?
Baseball talk? No, we've done some free agent talk.
We did?
In January.
Right after New Year?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I think we're on episode 17, but I think I've lost count depending on how many of them we're at. So episode 17 is what we're going to call it now. Our loyal barrelheads, as Kristen Swilly likes to call you. Those are our loyal listeners. We're going to give you the nickname barrelheads. If we're wrong and this isn't episode 17, we'd love to hear you and love to know it. But we are going with one of the bottles I was most excited to get last year.
Yes.
I'm going with Knob Creek 18 for our bourbon review. I'll put it in so you can see on YouTube the amazing packaging. It comes in this sort of box. Obviously, it's got the Knob Creek normal bottle look to it, but it says 18 on it. So 18 years, aged for 18 years. This one I actually got in the barreled and boxed program from Jim Beam, or the James Beam Distillery Company. But I also got another bottle at Kroger's, as they like to call it around here. Michael loves when you add an S to a grocery store.
Yeah, I was going to say that, you said that was your favorite bottle that you got last year. That was my favorite bottle that you got last year, too, because I'm so excited to have gotten a pour of it.
Yeah, so we're going with the Knob Creek 18. Like I mentioned, I was very excited for this. There's been some pretty good reviews of it. You have any questions about it? You haven't tried a sample yet, I
have not tried a sample, but one of my go-tos right now is Knob 12.
Knob 12. I'd like to do a side-by-side down the road here whenever I can get another Knob 12. But Knob Creek 18, you hear it in the name, 18 years old. This is the classic Knob Creek mash bill. 75% corn, 13% rye, 12% malted barley. This comes in just like the 12-year and I believe the 15-year, right at 100 proof. Mm-hmm. So it's all the same proofing. The only ones that are higher are the single barrel selects, which normally come in at 120. So again, 18 years, 100 proof, 75% corn, 13% rye, and 12% malted barley. You have already poured yours. Have you given it a nose a swirl?
I sit on my table here, and I like to pour it early just so that the glass gets full of the aroma, and I smell it from this distance when I pour it. I could just, I don't know if that's because it's such a mature oak, 18 year or what.
Yeah, 18 years.
I can smell this sucker.
The color, I'd say it's got a darker hazelnut to it, to me. It's definitely 18 years old, that's for sure.
Yeah, this makes me think of like the Pix app that has you select the color. You take the picture and it tries to guess the color of the bourbon.
Mm-hmm. And that's an awesome app. They're not a sponsor by any means. That we'd love them to be a sponsor, but head on over to the Pix app if you want to keep like an updated rating or review of your own idea. It matches your palate. So if you find bourbons that you like, it'll actually send you emails or similarity scores to hook you up with a different type of whiskey or different type of bourbon that you may enjoy. And I think you can buy it off the site there too. So really cool stuff. Check out Pix. I know that John Edwards from Dad's Drinking Bourbon has had a pretty big hand in that operation and getting a lot of that all together. So go check those guys out. It's an app where you're not worried about an algorithm like Instagram or something like that, like TikTok, and you don't have to worry about reels. It's just a picture. So
the big green thumbs up.
Yeah, it is literally the big green thumbs up. And if you're watching on YouTube, you see the logo right here because I'm popping it up. This is called editing in the moment.
Let's go.
I'm drinking out of a Bourbon Hood Glencairn today. For those of you who don't know what Bourbon Hood is, it's a bourbon charity company. Not company, but it's by Bourbon Charity. Bourbon Hood is basically a subscription to be a Robin Hood kind of figure where you're giving money to charity. And Bourbon Charity is doing their bracket challenge. We're almost to March Madness. That starts this weekend. So if you want to donate money to a great cause and also have a chance to win some pretty cool and exclusive bottles. I think I saw a Blanton straight from the barrel. I think there was a special Booker's. There's like 7 or 8 different bottles, I believe, that you could win just by winning a bracket. So go check them out. Bourbon Charity, Bourbon Hood on Instagram as well, I believe. So go head on over there. I think it's $10 a bracket or something like that. You're going to be playing a bracket anyways. Might as well put the money towards charity.
There you go.
Whoa, oak right off the nose.
Yeah, I've taken I've nosed it, and then I've got the palate cleanser sip at first, and off the nose I immediately get, of course, is that mature oak, but I got marshmallow, like a sweetness, mellow sweetness, marshmallow. There you go.
Yeah.
It doesn't smell spicy. For some reason I think of mature bourbon, I'm thinking of like 120, 130 proofer. But this is 100 proof. So I was expecting it to be spicy on the nose. And it's not. It's mellow. It gives the aromas of typical bourbon. I don't think I'm pulling anything too atypical out of this. Any kind of rye spice, any kind of tropical.
Yeah, my nose, I got oak right off the bat. There's a little leather to it.
Left nostril or right nostril?
Yeah, both of them are all clogged up right now. But we're in pollen season.
Yes.
I think I get some vanilla frosting out of it too. That's the sweetness I get. I don't know if it's marshmallow, but I can see what you're saying.
Creaminess.
Yeah.
First sip here.
What do you get?
It's powerful. I definitely get that heavy. It's a mature oak. As I'm sitting here talking, it's fading into the back of my mouth a little bit more. It's really heavy on the oak, but that's all I'm getting here as I'm speaking. It's got sweetness that comes through. It's not overly sweet. This is it's good.
Yeah,
you definitely get the oak on it. I think if you're in a barrel for 18 years, it better be oaky.
Yeah, it's got that classic bean nuttiness to me too. I get some walnut, like a dry walnut out of it.
Yeah.
And the oak it's oak forward, and it's mature oak. It's an oak bomb for sure. There's not much other than that. I get the nuts and the oak, and that's about it. The finish is all right. I think it coats the mouth well. Viscosity. In the glass, it seems a little more thin when you give it the swirl.
Yeah.
But it does coat the glass. So there's definitely an oiliness to it.
Yeah, I do. I definitely am picking up that peanutty that you're talking about. There's and when I talk complexity, I really always go to my two complex guys, which is the Barrel Vantage and the BRT2 by Makers. Those are two complex bombs of bourbons, and I don't get that out of this. I think it's it's flat a little bit. It's got great bourbon profile. It's a classic bourbon, but that's it.
Mm-hmm. I think it's simple. And that's what I wrote down for the finish. It's a simple finish. It's even. There's a little bit of a tang to the back, where there's some tingle to it. But, I mean, for 100 proof, this is an easy drink.
Yes.
You want to talk in the mic?
Try not to touch the table so I'm not shaking everything. You're going back for a little bit more.
Pour.
It was a light pour you had there. But... yeah, I think that, like you said, this is a classic bourbon, bourbon profile. A little more peanutty than I appreciate. Like that walnut as it lingers. The oak is good. It's a good oak. A good level of sweetness, not overpowering.
No, I thought off the nose that it had a little more sweetness on the nose than I anticipated for the taste to not have, right? Like there was a lot more sweet up front in the nose, and then when it came into my mouth, it actually felt more like it was a drier taste. You can definitely pull the oak out of that, but I don't have any like dark fruit. I pulled a little bit of that dark fruit out of the nose. There's not much of that. I just say notes and of nuts and oak, like mature oak, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I would say that it's oaky up front and then finishes nutty. There's not a lot to it.
So on our Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast rating scale, which you can find with the pin post right on our Instagram page, but we'll run through it real quick. Top of the top, Hall of Fame. Second is All-Star, which is second in line because most All-Stars become Hall of Famers, but not all of them do. Everyday player is right in the middle, somebody that's going to be every day on your shelf or maybe every day in your lineup. A bench player, not a knock, but something that you go to every once in a while to mix up the lineup. And then there's a DFA, which means designate for assignment. You're off the team. So where do you put this on our rating scale, Mike?
I think because it's a good classic bourbon, but it's nothing to me. I'm not blown away by it. It's not complex. It's a classic bourbon, and for what it is, I think if I were to blind it, I would definitely be benching this.
Mm-hmm.
And now, even looking at the name, it's an 18-year-old bourbon. And I don't even know if I've had anything this old before. This might be the oldest bourbon I've ever tasted.
It might be one of the ones that I'm up there for me too.
Yeah, I don't know if I've tasted anything this old. And I've always heard, after a certain age, it just gets oakier. There's a sweet spot age-wise. And I've never had anything older, but for me, it's classic bourbon. It's a little flat, as I want to call it. It's got just the two levels. You got the oak up front, peanuts in back. So I'm a little disappointed in it if I look at the label and taste it. So it's still, even if I said blind, I would bench it, and still, even knowing what it is, I disappointingly bench it.
Bench it. I'm going to bench it too. I teetered back between bench and everyday player, but I'm going with a bench partially for the MSRP of $170, so it's not the most affordable bottle. That is cheaper than a lot of the older bottles nowadays, though, right? Like, think even Old Fitz for a while was $10 per year. That's how they would price it. So a 15-year would be $150. A 17-year was $170. They jacked up the 19-year-old price quite a bit. So that's one extra year. And that was in the $250 range. So this is cheaper on that regard. I do see with the higher age, you got to put out a higher price.
Yeah.
I agree with the flat statement. It feels like it's lacking something on the back end. I think the nose is fantastic.
Right.
I think the nose is very good. It's a bourbon, like hits all the notes of bourbon, like just a classic bourbon. And then the taste up front, it's okay. And then it just kind of fades away and just becomes flat. And I agree with that opinion and assessment. So I'm unfortunately benching it. I think it's a good pour. I'm not reaching for this every day.
I'd rather buy the Knob 12 for half the price.
Right. Oh, if not less than half the price.
Yeah.
Right now it ranges anywhere from $60 to $75. I would like to see how they stack up next to each other.
Yeah, we'll have to do
in a blind. We'll have to do it. I'll have to send you another sample, and we'll have to pop open a 12. But yeah,
I've got a little bit of a 12 left.
Yeah,
but I will be buying another because it is my go-to right now.
So that has been the bourbon portion of our Barrels and Barrels of Bourbon and Baseball podcast. As always, we love to hear your thoughts, your reviews, as we try to give our open and honest reviews of the bourbon or the whiskeys that we tried. We hope that you give us an honest review. Hey, Brandon, just don't like the way he talks into the mic, or Michael's wearing his hat like a weirdo this week. And I'm waiting for you to quote it.
This is old man style.
Oh, old man style.
This is old man style.
I do not like your hat.
Oh. Go dogs go. I do not like it. Goodbye. Look at that guy.
I brought props this week. And for those of you not watching on YouTube, I actually was in my daughter's room reading her a book today, and I looked up and I was like, go dog go. Wait a second. This is Michael's book. So Michael, you may have caught it in past episodes, has said, I do not like your hat. I do not. So,
and also the end too. Also at the end, I do like that party hat. But yeah, so I'm wearing my hat. Old man style, I like to call it. It just sits right on top of the head. So that way you're still, getting that visor. You're still
You don't like the
repping
hair,
your hat.
really? Yeah.
You're not messing up with the hair, and it's not squeezing your head. But you're still repping it, You always got your grandpa was always, wearing your T-ball hat, that you were representing or something, but he didn't want to mess up his hairdo or squeeze his head. So there you go, right there.
Oh, well, we just lost all our 60-plus-year-old listeners. So, but please rate us and review us. We'd love to hear your thoughts. As we transition from bourbon to baseball, we usually do that with a trivia question. So I have one to toss to you. We're deep in the middle of the World Baseball Classic, which we'll dive into here in a minute in our baseball talk. So I've got a World Baseball Classic themed all-time home run leader in the major leagues amongst players who were born between the Netherlands, Aruba, and Curacao.
I'm sorry, you said the all-time MLB home run leader who was born between those three.
Who, out of those three countries, the Netherlands, Aruba, and Curacao, all part of the old Dutch colonies, and I believe Curacao-born players play on the Netherlands team, so that's why I'm adding that. The all-time home run leader from those countries.
Andrew Jones.
It is Andrew Jones.
I knew because it was Netherlands, right?
Yeah, Netherlands. But he's a stud. Amazing center fielder. I think he'll be in the Hall of Fame within the next couple of years. But
he's one of those controversial guys for the Hall of Fame. Speaking of he hit 280 career, but he was one of the best center fielders, hit home runs, and that Atlanta Braves lineup was definitely a threat, but he only hit 280 for his career.
He had 453 on home runs, I believe, is what the number was. I closed the tab, but it's not the 500 club, but that's still pretty high up there, especially when you add in his defense and everything else that he did, and it was a long career too. So
Brandon, I have one for you here. Who has more stolen bases in their career, Albert Pujols or Ronald Acuna Jr.?
I'm going to say Albert Pujols.
That would be an easy guess, as you'd think that Pujols has been in the league how many years, and Acuna's been in it, 5? Mm-hmm. But yes, Pujols is leading in stolen bases, but by only 10.
And he played for 100 years. So if we're going to do off-the-cuff trivia, I have one more for you.
Well, let's bring. We're 1 for 1 here. Let's go.
We are both we are both 1 for 1. All right. From the leadoff position,
Wampier.
Who has the most home runs in a season? There are 2 players to have done it, to tie with the same amount, with 39.
I know one of those is Alfonso Soriano.
Okay.
Number 2, leadoff.
He's an active player.
He's an active player. He didn't just retire this year?
Mm-mm.
Leadoff home runs. Let's go Kyle Schwarber.
It is George Springer hit 39 in 2019. So I believe Soriano did it with the Cubs. It was either the Cubs or the Nationals. I thought it was the Cubs. I think it was 2010. But yeah, those are our trivia questions. Good job this week, Mikey. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I don't know why I knew that. I think Andrew Jones played for the Netherlands in the WBC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think, isn't Yerksen Profar from Curacao? And I think he plays on the Netherlands teams.
Maybe.
So that's the only reason I knew that Curacao played with the Netherlands. So we are halfway through the month of March. This is dropping on March 15th. We're a couple days away from St. Patrick's Day. March Madness starts tomorrow. So the basketball world is really going to take storm. But the World Baseball Classic kind of has a March Madness kind of feel to it. We'll get to that in a second. Spring training started well before the WBC. We are about a month in. I think it was February 14th and 15th that most teams started spring training. The big thing has been the rules changes and how that was going to affect the game. We've already seen how it has impacted spring training at times. What is your thoughts so far? For it, against it, go.
So I'm going to first talk about the pitch clock. 15 seconds. The batter has to be ready at 8. And I think it's fantastic that we have the World Baseball Classic this year because you're able to sit in spring training, see this pitch clock, and see the pace of games. I think it's frustrating when the batter's in the box necessarily, but he's not looking at the pitcher. That's at 8 seconds. I think that's frustrating. I feel like it's fast. I feel like if 15 seconds, that batter only gets 7 seconds as soon as the pitcher gets the ball to adjust, take a breath, get set, and look up. I think it's a little fast. But what helps is during this World Baseball Classic, they're not playing by those rules. They're playing by the old rules with no pitch clock. And after watching some spring training games, and it's an hour in and we're already in the 4th or 5th inning, where now I'm watching Team USA play Mexico, and it's an hour in and we're in the 2nd inning. And I'm waiting for the guy to pitch the ball, and I have time to go to the fridge and make dinner real quick, and it's still the same inning. So I enjoy the pace of play, that it speeds things up. It's not one pitch for 5 minutes. I enjoy that. I just think it's a tad fast. I think it's a tad fast.
There's probably a middle ground I think that they need to reach. I do think it's good for the game, though. The pace of these games, I think I saw a Cubs spring training game finish in 2 hours and 7 minutes.
And there were still like 7 runs scored, something like 14 hits.
So there's action out in the field. I originally thought this was going to be more of a benefit for the hitters, but it seems to be more of an advantage for the pitchers. What do you think?
I was taught in high school that it was 3 minutes or 15 pitches, something like that. That was our goal, something to be pace. So you catch the ball and you get right back on the mound, and the pitchers get into a groove. As a pitcher, that was your thing, and that's what they teach batters too. If you see a pitcher's in the groove, step out of the box. So yeah, like I said, I think it helps pitchers who maybe didn't do that before get into a rhythm, and it just flows, man. When you're pounding the zone, you get right back up there, and that batter doesn't really have too much time to process what you just threw him, what the count is. They're not ready for it.
Well, I know Max Scherzer's playing some games too with batters. Have you seen this?
I did see that. And they even had to make like a rule clarification for it.
Yeah. So it'll be an interesting couple of weeks, especially the first 2 or 3 weeks as it's in the regular season. It's one thing to watch it in spring training and, like you said, the World Baseball Classic, but to see it in a regular season game be implemented, where for us, it's been 30 plus years of watching baseball, where you're used to one certain. I know it's gotten slower and slower and slower over the years, but like this is just like flipping it on its head. I think it's going to be good. I do think that it's going to lead to more action. Hopefully, the people that just kind of got bored with baseball over time start to come back.
The veteran players who are not used to it, who have been around, are probably the biggest adjustment, but the guys who have been playing in the minor leagues the last 2 years, they've played with it.
Right. Well, that's why when we had our conversation on this in the Ben Holiday podcast, in the Rules podcast itself, I said I wondered how this is going to be impacted by the World Baseball Classic, because they're not playing on these rules. So these players are going to have a quicker time to have to adjust to this after they did it in spring training for a couple of weeks, and they went out to the World Baseball Classic, and now they've got to play for 2 weeks under different sets of rules, and then they come back. So I wonder how that's going to impact these players as they come back, which we can dive into as we get into the season. But I think that's one thing to keep an eye on as we get to the regular season, is those players that played in the World Baseball Classic, are they more apt to create a violation through the first couple of weeks?
Yeah, and I want to say no, because it's the Stars that went and played, but it's not necessarily just the Stars. You've got Owen Cassidy playing for Team Canada,
right?
Who's going right back to the minor league system, and that's all he's used to.
Yeah,
Javier Assad. He's only played in the minor leagues, really. I think they're professionals and they know how to get ready. I don't think they're not as much of an advantage, because they did get to go back to stepping out of the box, looking at the bat barrel. I think they'll adjust. I just don't want to see games decided by a pitch clock.
Like the first weekend, where there was a game that, obviously games don't end in a tie, but there was it Boston and the Braves? Yep. Is that what it was? Bases loaded, full count, 2 outs, bottom of the ninth, and walk-off tie because of a pitch clock violation by the batter, I believe. He wasn't. And that's the thing. You have to address the pitcher. Like, hello, pitcher.
You have to be looking at him. And the worst one I've seen so far is the batter stepped out because the umpire went to get more baseballs. So the umpire went and got more baseballs. The batter waited for the umpire to be back into his area behind the catcher. But by that time, it was 9 seconds. So the moment the umpire got ready, batter violation. They called. Now, if the umpire's not in his box, and so he waited for the umpire to get ready. So if he would have stepped in the box, the umpire was over here. Not even barely in the dirt. That was the worst one. That didn't make sense to me. The batter was like you weren't ready. I was waiting for you.
Yeah.
So it's almost like I feel like the umpire needs to start it sometimes, or they need to make sure they call timeouts when the umpire's out of his box. So that was the craziest one.
100% agree. So we're March 15th. That's when this episode drops. We are just about 2 weeks away. 15 days from opening day, March 30th. Hard to believe it's here. Any thoughts on the season real quick? We'll do a season preview as we get closer. But so far, biggest storylines, is it the pitch clock? Is it the new rules? I mean, we've had the bigger bases. I don't think that has really caused too much of a difference. The shift seems to have created more hits up the middle.
Yes, I do like the shift. I think the pickoffs, the limited number of pickoffs has created more stolen bases. Guys know they're limited, and so I think stolen bases are up this spring.
Yeah.
But there is a statistic. The guys who have the most stolen bases are guys fighting for their job.
Yeah. So they're try-hard kind of guys.
Yes, where the veterans aren't necessarily stealing. They got job.
I don't want to get hurt.
Yes, right.
So 2 weeks from tomorrow will be opening day. Boy, it feels like it's been a longer than normal off season, doesn't it?
Well, it feels like a long spring training because this is our longest spring training in 3 years.
All right. In 2020, it was cut short.
2020 was cut short. 2021, it was
pushed back a little bit.
And last year,
the CBA.
So 2019 was the last time we had this kind of spring training.
Man, it's been 4 years.
Let's go.
That's crazy.
Was that the last WBC too?
I believe so. 2019?
Wow.
Yeah. Oof.
So next year would be the first regular spring training.
Normal spring training in 5 years. Wow. That's insane. A lot of those players aren't even playing anymore. So with spring training, unfortunately, comes the injury portion of things. Have had some big names kind of drop. Not necessarily drop for the year, but some injuries that I think could play some key roles, at least for the first couple of weeks of the season, if not the first couple of months. First one, Vlad Jr., he had to drop out of the World Baseball Classic. Sounds like his knee's okay.
I think he'll still be opening day.
Probably the biggest name that I've seen drop with an injury note. Then next was Carlos Rodon, who's got a strained forearm, which is scary because strained forearm tends to lead to elbow issues.
So I've got details on this one because Carlos Rodon's on my fantasy team. Was looking to move him at certain points this offseason just because I have a plethora of pitching on my fantasy team. But the good news on Carlos Rodon, there's two things to it. One, usually UCL, Tommy John type forearm injuries are on the inner side of the forearm, which is the UCL. Apparently this is on the outside of his forearm. And it's apparently something that he pitched through last year that started in May. And so that's why he came out and said, if this was October, I'd be pitching, man. But because it's April, I want to be pitching October, and we're going to take it easy. So you could look at it as either a cover-up. You could look at it as a way to manage his innings, and the Yankees trying to protect their investment of however much $100 million Rodon is. And because they lost Frankie Montas.
Montas?
Yeah.
Montas?
They lost him for, I think, for the year.
He had shoulder surgery, I thought.
Yeah, so
I don't know if it's for the year, but I know it's for most of this season.
I really think the Yankees really wish they had Hayden Wesneski right now in their rotation.
Wesneski, yeah. Hayden Wesneski. And they got him, the Cubs, from the Yankees for...
Scotty Effross.
Scotty Effross, who's also just had Tommy John, so he's not even going to pitch for the Yankees this year either.
Right.
Get better, Scotty Efros. We love you, man.
Thank you,
Chicago boys.
Yep.
Thank you. Next on the list, I have Harrison Bader on the Yankees as well. He was a big trade piece last year who came to the Yankees from the Cardinals. He's dealing with an oblique strain. He was one of their best players in the postseason last year. So I think he was excited to come in fresh with the job of center field. Mm-hmm. So that's going to impact the Yankees lineup. And obliques seem to have been the injury of the spring training. We'll get to that here in a second. Two big pitching additions for the Rangers dealing with left side tightness. That is Jacob deGrom and Nathan Eovaldi.
I'll be surprised that deGrom's are already shut down. Already delayed.
But I guess he said it's just tightness and he's throwing again. But that's something to watch going forward. That theoretically the biggest arm in the offseason, him or Verlander, right? And Rodon. It was kind of those three and then everybody else. And two of the three are hurt. So here you go, Justin. Things happen in threes. Fingers crossed. Next was Justin Turner. This was a scary one. Did you see this? He took a fastball off the face. Man, it's square. Nasty. But supposedly he's coming back in good spirits.
And no broken bones in his face.
Right,
I mean, he was bleeding immediately. So
yeah. Yordan Alvarez has a hand issue, which is making it hard to swing. He just started swinging a bat for the first time, like within the last couple of days.
Now, this is worrisome because this is I think a hamate injury that bothered him last year too. And from what I've read, is hamate injuries don't really heal naturally.
Normally they have to remove the bone, or most of the time. Alberto Mora had a hamate bone injury that kept him out, I think, 6 or 7 months one year.
So this is for such a for a guy who's his bat, his thing. They don't have him on the team for his defense. That kept him out last year, an injury. This is worrisome that you're not going to get him for 150 games even.
Right, and also worrisome is that Lance McCullers also dealing with a forearm injury. He did resume long toss earlier this week, maybe if not today. So he's on the comeback trail, but that's an arm in that rotation who's a 3 or 4 who theoretically with Verlander gone was going to have to play a bigger role. So now you've got really 2 guys in that rotation that you can count on rather than 3, and last year you had 4. So,
yeah, and I think McCullers is not going to be ready for opening day, but they do have Verlander-type mechanic guy Hunter Brown, who is ready to step right in. And I think this opens up a spot for him right away in rotation. He could be exciting to watch. I think when he first came up, you could put him and Verlander mirrored image on top of each other, and the mechanics were exactly the same. So that's kind of fun to watch. You just hope that he keeps it together. Right.
Speaking of oblique, Seiya Suzuki on the Cubs. He is out with I believe it was a grade 2 strain, not even a grade 1. So it's a little worse than a normal oblique. We'll see what his opening day status looks like, but we're within 2 weeks, and I think this normally takes about a month to 6 weeks.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on it. I think they're already
I wouldn't count on it either. And he came in ripped. He came in jacked into camp.
I wonder if that had anything to do with it.
It could. I mean, a little bit more strain on the muscle. Your body's not used to that muscle mass. Who knows? Speaking of oblique, Mitch Haniger, another big signing. Boy, if the Giants' offseason couldn't get worse. You go from Arson Judge to Mitch Haniger as the backup for Aaron.
Consolation
and
prize.
Then you had Carlos Correa, who just didn't have a leg, and they didn't sign him. And now your biggest real off-season move was Mitch Haniger, and now he's out with an oblique, and it's saying, I believe I saw 6 weeks before he's back. Could be wrong on that one, but
that guy just can't stay healthy. Poor guy.
No.
He had such a great breakout year. What was it, 21?
Was it 21 or was it not 2019?
I think he came back and had one good year recently. So,
Joe Musgrove dealing with a big toe injury. I think he took a ground ball off the toe and broke it. But he's on the comeback trail. But I mean that rotation is fine. That Padres team, man.
I think they might actually be better than the Dodgers this year.
Maybe
because and we'll jump right into this injury. The Dodgers didn't re-sign Trey Turner. They were going to hand Gavin Lux the starting shortstop role, one of their top prospects back in the day. And Gavin Lux running the third base. I don't know if you saw it run from second to third. Did he go to stop to try?
He got carted off the field, didn't he?
Yeah, he went to stop and his knee just twisted the wrong way and he tore MCL or ACL and he's out for the year. So now,
I'm assuming ACL if he's out for the year. I didn't see what the actual injury was. I saw that he got hurt. I saw the video. Mm-hmm. And as someone who's had 7 knee surgeries, it's one of those that I don't want to watch anymore. It just kind of hurts to look at. Even if you haven't gotten hurt, you feel it. But when you've had that injury and you know what that feels like, you're like, you're scared it's going to happen to you just watching the video. Also, they just had Freddie Freeman go down potentially with a hamstring injury.
Did they?
For Team
I didn't
Canada.
see that.
Yeah, he went out of the game because of a hamstring injury flying out to third base. He got taken out in the 4th inning or the 5th inning of the game against Mexico today against Mexico, I believe. So it's going to be one to watch because that's a former MVP in your lineup.
I mean, that now you look at their infield, which was Turner. Who was second base for him?
Gavin was at second, and Freddie.
And Murphy? Murphy. Right?
Taylor?
No, but so they went from a pretty stout infield now to probably Miguel Vargas at first base now. Miguel Rojas, I think, at shortstop. Third base.
Yeah, Rojas is going to probably be at shortstop because that's who they traded for from the Marlins. But
right.
Man, let me go look up the depth chart here.
The Dodgers team just looks a little depleted from years past, and you wonder if it can keep up. I mean, I even see word that, like, hey, the D-backs have a chance.
Max Muncy is who you're looking for.
Max Muncy, yes. Who did I? I said Sean, or I said Murphy. I said Murphy was the last name. It was Max Muncy. So suddenly now, Muncy, who was looking at maybe a platoon role, I think if Freddie Freeman has to miss any time, Muncy's at first base.
He's listed as a starting third baseman right now.
Oh, no. This will be interesting because now you get the outfield is not Bellinger. Who's in the outfield? Betts.
You've got Chris Taylor, Trace Thompson, and
JD Martinez.
And
you don't want that guy playing the outfield.
And Jason Hayward.
Oh, he's gonna make the team now.
He's gonna make the team now, probably.
He's gonna make the team. And you know what? Now that I'm saying that, Mookie Betts is gonna come play second base earlier than expected. They're gonna put Vargas back at first. And Mookie's going to go play second, and Hayward will join the outfield.
Who's Vargas? Miguel Vargas. Yep, yes. He's already listed as the number 1 defensive second baseman on the team. So, yeah, the Dodgers injury bug, especially the Buehler's coming back from the arm injury, so it's not going to be right away, I don't think, for him.
Until September.
So they're going to have injuries. The thing about the Dodgers, though, is they always have depth. So we'll get more into that here in a couple of weeks when we do our season predictions show, which is just a couple of weeks away as we get closer and closer to the regular season. So we just gave you, one last injury. You see what happened to Jose Quintana?
No, I did not.
So he's out through at least July. He's got a lesion on his rib. So they've got to do surgery and take a bone graft and pack the rib with another bone, because he's got some sort of issue in his rib that it's life-threatening, supposedly, or close to it. Like benign. Oh, it was benign. That's what it said.
What team is he on now?
He's on the Mets. Remember, he was part of the Verlander, the Kota Senga, and Quintana. Like, they spent a bunch of money on their rotation, and now Senga's been dealing with a finger issue, like a right finger strain, and Quintana.
The old guys, Verlander and Scherzer.
And Carlos Carrasco. So some injuries to keep an eye on as we go forward. It always happens. It always sucks to see, but
that's why you do your fantasy baseball drafts towards the end of spring training.
And Michael will have more on fantasy baseball in the next couple of weeks as well. So check out our Instagram pages as well as our YouTube shorts. You can find some more of those over the next couple of weeks. As we change over to the World Baseball Classic, for those of you who don't know, is this the 5th time that they've played it? Or
I'm not sure.
I know Dice Game. It's been a few for sure. But what it is, it's 20 teams across 4 different pools. So teams of divisions of 5, and they each play each team. So you play the other 4 teams in your bracket, and the top 2 with the best record coming out of that pool move on to the quarterfinals, then the semifinals, and then ultimately the World Baseball Classic Championship. So far, you've watched a decent amount of that. What are your thoughts so far?
Number one, the Team USA has no starting pitching. Their offense is, the guy batting 8 is Trey Turner. Come on, that's that. But then the rotation is Adam Wainwright, Nick Martinez.
The Padres, Nick Martinez?
Yes. I'm 99% sure. So you just don't have the guys. You don't have Jacob deGrom. You don't have Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, Carlos Rodon. You don't have MLB's aces out there necessarily because they're all so injury prone or older and they don't necessarily want to risk getting hurt for their season. So you do feel like Team USA is lacking in that point, where some other teams are just stud rotations.
Yeah.
You got Sandy Alcantara on one team leading. Dominican Republic has a nasty offense, but I think they lost to Venezuela right off the bat, first game in the pool play. So the pool play's been great play. I know not every game necessarily is an elimination game, but they have been fun games to watch because they've been describing, the games have been sold out. Chase Field in Arizona, the games have been sold out.
It looks fun.
It is playoff baseball in March. It is fantastic. You got a guy striking out the side, or just even striking out one guy pumping his fists. I think the coolest story, I think you already have it listed here, Brendan, in our notes, is the 21-year-old who struck out Juan Soto, Julio Rodriguez, and do you know the third one?
Rafael Devers.
Struck out those three batters, struck out the side as a 21-year-old prospect from, what team was he? Where's he from?
He's Nicaragua, and he immediately after the game signed a minor league deal with the Detroit Tigers.
That's awesome.
That's so cool, right? Like, you're living your dream on this biggest stage, and you come out and you strike out three of the best batters in the league right now. You've got Soto, as you mentioned. You got J-Rod, who was the Rookie of the Year last year, and Rafael Devers, who just got paid $300+ million, and he's the best player on the Red Sox. You come out and you strike out the side, and then the Detroit Tigers hand you a contract afterwards.
Yeah, so if any of these teams that don't have rotation options or bullpen options need a guy for 2026, 2027, whenever the next WBC is, Michael Burns, just give me a call, hit me up on Instagram, or email us at barrelsandbarrels@gmail.com. I'm rehabbing my shoulder right now. The speed's coming, but hey, hit me up, baby. The movie The Rookie 2.0.
Yeah, but he threw like 93. You threw like 63.
He threw like 9. I thought he threw like even faster than that, like 98 or something like that. But
yeah,
anyways,
I think it was 98.
Hey, 63. But... I throw hard on that, bro. We'll see. I'm coming off shoulder surgery. We'll get there.
So 2 of the pool plays are already decided. We'll have to wait through the afternoon today, which is Wednesday, November 15th, for the rest of this to really come to fruition. But Pool A was Cuba, Italy, Netherlands, Panama, and Chinese Taipei. And Cuba wins this. All teams finished 2-2. So this all came down to the tiebreaker. So Cuba was number 1, and then Italy was number 2. Pool B in Tokyo, Japan just ran rumshot all over everybody, 4-0. And then Australia also advanced as the second team from that bracket. That also had the Czech Republic, China, and Korea. I don't know who's on the China team, but they're 0-4.
Face each other.
No. So the way it works is that Australia plays Cuba. So that's Pool B runner-up Australia plays Cuba, Pool A winner tonight. Well, I guess it'll be decided by the time this podcast drops because it's 6 a.m. Eastern, a.m. because it played in Tokyo on Fox Sports 2. So there'll be a winner of that game. And then the other quarterfinal, which is tomorrow at 6 a.m. Eastern, if you're listening to this on Wednesday, March the 15th, Italy, which was Pool A runner-up, will face Japan, which is probably going to just destroy them. But, hey, who knows? That is on Thursday. And then quarterfinal 3 and quarterfinal 4, we don't know who the winners are yet for either. That will be played on Friday and Saturday. Right now, it looks like it's going to be Venezuela and Puerto Rico. But it all depends on the last game for both those teams. Like Venezuela's in. They're 3-0. Israel as well as the Dominican Republic are 1-1. Puerto Rico's 2-1. Nicaragua is eliminated 0-4. They're in Pool D, which is being played in Miami. And then Pool C, which is the one that most people have watched, Canada, USA, Mexico, Colombia, and then Great Britain. I bring up Great Britain because it's like at the last minute they realize, oh, we need uniforms. What do you think of these?
The jerseys is like, they said, hey, here's your jerseys. It's going to cost, $300 per jersey. And someone stepped in and said, I know someone who can do it cheaper.
I saw something, I think it was on Instagram or Facebook, and it said, the person creating the Great Britain jersey threw Arial font just through Great Britain and threw it in the middle of the jersey and printed it.
Yes.
Because it's literally, think of a jersey, like all these intricate jerseys, and then this is literally a navy blue with a red, just in like Comic Sans font almost too. Mm-hmm. Great Britain.
And then they're alternates too, and they were iron-on too. That one of the pitchers, his key fell off and great.
Yes, I saw it was hanging.
The best
so if
joke.
You want a good laugh, we'll throw it up on our Instagram page too.
Yeah, the best laugh I saw was the alternates that Great Britain had, and one of them was word art, and it said, the classic word art from Word, yeah. Great Britain.
Yeah. Back in the day, the word art.
Yes.
For those kids back in the day, you had to go into a computer room to go onto the computers in school, and if you wanted to create graphics, you had to pop up this item in Word called word art, and you could change the fonts to look real fun and cool. So, yeah, that's literally what the Great Britain jerseys look like, which is hilarious. One last thing I want to talk about the World Baseball Classic, the walk-off perfect game, right, by Puerto Rico. That would have been Tuesday night. Did you see this?
I only saw the headline. I didn't see.
So I think there's a run rule, right? Is there like a mercy rule?
Yes, there are mercy rules.
10 runs. So Puerto Rico did not give up a single base runner. And in the bottom of the 8th inning at their at-bat, they scored the 10th run to make it 10-0. So they threw 8 innings of perfect game, and then they walked it off on the 10th run in the bottom of the 8th inning. So something you're not terribly used to, but like it's just one of those things. A mercy rule
and a perfect game.
And a perfect game all in the same one. And the team who threw the perfect game won on a walk-off where they won by 10 runs. So try to wrap that around your head.
But, WBC's first perfect game.
Yeah. Man, these teams, Puerto Rico is...
Puerto Rico.
You've got Jose Barrios. I'm just running through their Elias Diaz, Edwin Diaz. These are just their pitchers so far. Not a ton of them. Derek Rodriguez pops up. That's, I believe, the son of catcher. Pudge.
Yeah,
Ivan
Pudge was
Rodriguez.
in attendance. I follow Pudge on Instagram, and he was in attendance.
Former Cub, Dwayne Underwood Jr., Martin Maldonado is the catcher with Kristen Vasquez as well. Javi Baez, Edwin Diaz, Enrique Hernandez,
El Mago
Francisco
already.
Lindor.
He's made a sweet defensive play from second base behind the
base,
bag. Yeah. He made it look routine, and it was not. Mm-hmm. And then I think his most recent swim move at third base.
Dude.
I miss watching him.
Man, think about this. Dude, the coaching staff. Have you seen the coaching staff for
No, but
Puerto Rico?
Stunned by it. Your eyebrows
Yadier
dropped
Molina. Yadier Molina. Alex Cintrón is the bench coach. Victor Rodriguez is the hitting coach. Okay. Assistant hitting coach is Juan Gonzalez. You
remember his batting stance?
Yes. Jose Molina is the first base coach. Luis Rivera is the third base coach, and then Jose Rosado is the bullpen coach. Like, those are all former big leaguers who had pretty decent careers.
Who are regulars, right?
Yeah. Man, Venezuela, I'm assuming that team's stacked. I haven't.
Yes.
I'm going to be honest, I haven't watched a ton. Jose Alvarado, Julius Chacin.
Basically, you'll be surprised if when you look at the line, you'll be like, "Oh, I'm sure it's just one of these teams."
Man, look at the catchers, and Wilson Contreras isn't in this.
No.
He's from Venezuela, and here's the 3 catchers: you've got Salvador Perez, Omar Narvaez, and Robinson Chirinos. Oh, and then you get to the infield, and you've got Luis Arias, who just won the batting championship for the AL, with Jose Altuve, Eduardo Escobar, Andres Jimenez, Herman Perez, Luis Rengifo, Eugenio Suarez, and Gleyber Torres. Like, those are studs. Not all studs, but Herman Perez was a good bench player with the Brewers. Jimenez is on, I believe, the Guardians now, and wasn't he one of their best players last year? Eduardo Escobar is a fantastic player. You've got Ronald Acuna, David Peralta, and Anthony Santander, and then you're designated here, Mr. Triple Crown, Miggy.
That's so I love about this WBCs. You got young and old, veteran. I mean, Vance Worley was a Phillies starting pitcher for the Phillies 10 years ago, and there he is pitching for Great Britain. You got Owen Cassey,
I was like, is that the
20
same
years
Vance
old?
Worley that like pitched?
How can you not remember the goggles? Yep, it was the goggles.
Yeah, well, wasn't he a rookie of the year or really good contender back then? Yeah, like his rookie year. Let's see, in 2011. Yeah, so it's been 12 years. He had 12 quality starts. He went in 2011. He had a 3.0 ERA. He was 11-1 on 131 innings pitched.
Yeah,
and then he just fell off the face of the earth. It's real cool. I'm excited to see where things go from here. It's cool to see teams have players from all over the place. Like, oh, I didn't know he was of British descent, like Trace Thompson.
Newbar. Yeah, Lars Newbar, the salt shaker. He's gone global and with the salt shakers. He hit a double or something. He's got like a soccer team in Japan doing the salt shaker.
So it's just super cool to see these players, and they have like a lot of passion for it too, which you don't normally see on a baseball field because it's 162 games. I mean, there's passion, but this is like you mentioned, playoff kind of passion. So I'm excited to see where this goes. It's going to be interesting here the next couple of days to see who winds up in the quarterfinals, and then ultimately, I believe next week, Wednesday, is the final. So
close to opening day.
We are super close to opening day. Again, opening day, as you listen to this on March 15th, that is 2 weeks from tomorrow. Anything else about the World Baseball Classic that you've noticed that you've loved or you want to chime in on, Mikey?
I think once we get out of this pool play and we have a fixed bracket, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun to watch.
Certainly. It's going to be one of those must-see kind of things just because of the teams involved. I mean, if USA doesn't make it, I think they're going to. I think it's going to be them in Canada, depending on who won this. Well, let's see. We might be able to get a live update on that.
My favorite part about the WBC too is you've got guys from countries who maybe aren't huge in baseball, and they'll interview and like, oh yeah, for the last 3 years I've been a business account manager, and I'm gonna come play third base. You're like, good luck to you guys. You're playing Venezuela, and Ronald Acuna Jr. is up the bat. Good luck.
So Canada and Mexico will really decide tomorrow who makes it. If the United States are able to beat Colombia, and they've got Merrill Kelly pitching, and Colombia's pitcher is to be determined. But Colombia is 1-2. United States is 2-1. So that game will be at 10 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, March 15th. First pitch is 10 p.m. Eastern, as I mentioned. So that's a late watch for a lot of folks. But, hey, give it a watch if you get a chance. I believe most of these games are on Fox. I saw one over the weekend. So cool stuff there. World Baseball Classic. Baseball is always fun, right? Especially like this competitive type of baseball. So
Playoff baseball in March.
Right. It's one-game eliminations, too. That's what makes it so cool for the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and then ultimately the championship game is it's not strung out in a series. It's like you have a bad game, you're done.
March Madness of baseball, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, so March Madness of baseball as we kick off March Madness. Quick, do you have a team that's going to win March Madness? Have you done a bracket yet?
No. But I saw a video of a guy who thinks his secret is you look at turnovers. Teams who have given up the most turnovers usually do not do well.
Most of the time, that's a good
I mean,
thought.
that's pretty obvious.
You turn the ball over.
When you hear about, when you listen to it. But like Alabama is a team that turns the ball over a lot.
So you don't think that as the number one seed that they're going to win it?
I don't watch basketball enough to comment like that. I'm just saying what I saw on a reel, brah.
On a reel. Yeah, Michael's the king of watching reels. Anything else? Baseball-wise? Bourbon-wise?
No, I'm excited. I got my big fantasy baseball draft next Friday. We got golf tournament before it. It's going to be a good time. I'm so excited for fantasy baseball and baseball season.
Michael is going to be our fantasy baseball expert, so go give him a follow on Instagram if you haven't already. His name is atop him on YouTube if you're watching. But for those not watching, Michael, what is it?
BNB_Burns. Check it out on Twitter. Some interacting with some other fantasy baseball experts as well will be coming. Oh, it's going to be a good time.
So go check out Michael on Instagram and on Twitter and look for some more reels and YouTube shorts about fantasy baseball, maybe some tips on what you should look for, how you should use your money wisely, etc. Over there. I am whiskey_weather on Instagram. You can also find me at WXSpinner on Instagram if you're looking for weather advice or just stupid stuff that I do with my coworkers.
I messaged Brandon hey Brandon, I'm traveling. My flight's gonna be delayed or canceled, and that dude gives me a personal forecast. So if he might have to start a
personal forecast if you treat me right, or if you go buy a T-shirt, $25 right now. Just send us a Venmo, or
you might have to set up a Cameo account, Brandon.
Yes, a Cameo account for forecasts. I might get in trouble for that through work. You can find us as a podcast on Instagram, Barrels and Barrels Pod. We're also on Facebook, Barrels and Barrels Pod. Twitter is Barrels and Barrels. You're watching on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Hey, there's a button below. Please click subscribe. We are almost to 50 subscribers. We're this close. That's our milestone by the end of March to get to 50 subscribers. We'd love to get there. If you want to buy a T-shirt or you just want to reach out and say, hey, you guys suck, or you're still listening and we are an hour into this podcast, drop us a note. We've got stickers to give away. I'll send you a sticker if you send me an email that says you are listening here at an hour in. Just send that email, barrelsandbarrels@gmail.com. Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, and Amazon podcasts. You can find us there. Please just do us a favor. If you like our podcast, click the 5-star rating, leave a review. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Let the other people out there know what they're listening to when they click on us for the first time. We will love to do that. And if you do, I promise you'll also get a shout out as well. That has been all of episode 17 of Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast. Thank you for listening. Mikey, any last words?
Let's go.